Peace, peace, peace. What it is, it's your brother Tyvon Swano, aka the Orthodox Moor, aka the Seven Pillar Saracen, aka Brother Moor. Praying that y'all are having a peaceful and blessed day. Real quick, I wanted to address this situation that people are seeing on the news about this group called the Rise of the Moors and their standoff that they had on I-95 in Massachusetts. I've had a few people reach out to me about this, so I wanted to definitely address this. I am a decent person to be able to address this topic, as I used to be part of the Moorish Temple of America, and I actually have some. I also have on a whole nother, another flip experience. I actually have some experience where at one point in time, I lived with somebody who was a sovereign citizen and was exposed to their ideology, and am somewhat familiar with what they believe. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a couple of news clips. I'm going to make a couple of clarifications, and then I'm going to get into a couple of videos where people talk about the people involved, and also where some lawyers break down some legal aspects as to what these Moors were saying in court. And the purpose of this video is to make a clear distinction as to what a Moorish national and Moorish sovereign citizen is, and what a Moorish American Muslim / a member of the Moorish Science Temple of America is, because they're two different things, family. One is an extremist ideology that will get people in jail, etc., and can cause detriment to people's lives or whatnot. The other is a group of people who belong to a religious organization that's been around for over 100 years, that does not seek to do harm to anybody. And so a lot of people are conflating the two, thinking that the Moorish sovereign citizens are the same thing as Moorish American Muslims, and nothing could be further from the truth. And like I said, I'm here to make a clear distinction on that, and specifically to focus just on a couple of basic legal arguments being made. I'm not going to get into the full ideology of the Moors, but I'm going to get into how they interact with the law and how they interact with the government in terms of Moorish American Muslims. You're going to hear people say this blanket term Moors. And so when you hear everyone being addressed as a Moor, that can get confusing. So I'm going to try to explain how the Moorish American Muslims interact with the law and the government, and also explain how the Moorish national / the Moorish sovereign citizens interact with the government, how they're two completely different ideologies. But without further ado, family, I'm going to play a couple of news clips just to get everything ready to go, and then I'm going to play some video clips from some other channels, some other content creators, like I said, to comment on this. And like I said, I'm going to go a little bit further and show some more information as well when I'm done with that. But without further ado, here we go, family.
Now to a story we first told you about here on 12 News this morning. Yesterday, M.S.T.A. police have identified a majority of the armed men arrested yesterday during a standoff in Wakefield, Massachusetts. The identities of the men shown there on your screen. Police say one man identified as Jahmal Latimer is from Providence and Quinn Cumberlander is from Pawtucket. Police say two men have refused to identify themselves and one is a juvenile. Now, that tense standoff between police and the group of armed men shut down part of I-95 north of Boston on this busy 4th of July weekend. Authorities say the incident began when officers saw two cars pulled over with hazard lights on. The men took off into a wooded area after police say they refused to put down their weapons, but the suspects eventually surrendered without incident. Police took 11 suspects into custody. They seized a number of weapons as well. The group told police they were going to Maine from Rhode Island for training and that they are members of a group called Rise of the Moors.
The self-professed leader wants it very much known that their ideology is not anti-government. The investigation that follows from this interaction will provide us more insight into what their motivation, what their ideology is.
Now, authorities are investigating and working to determine what charges they will face. The suspects expected to appear in court on Tuesday. Coming up in our next half hour, we'll take a closer look at this group and their Rhode Island connection.
Members of the so-called Rise of the Moors group faced a judge today, including 2 men from Rhode Island.
The militia group was involved in an hours-long armed standoff with Massachusetts State Police on 95 North this weekend. They're now facing several gun charges after a state trooper found them on the side of the road with rifles and pistols, wearing military-style gear. 12 News reporter Brittany Schaefer joins us now live from outside of court in Medford, Massachusetts, with how members of the group explain their actions today. Brittany?
Well, Mike, the hearings are still going on due to many delays from disruptions and objections. The 2 men from Rhode Island, one from Providence, one from Pawtucket, both faced a judge this afternoon. The Rise of the Moors say they don't follow federal or state laws. That logic also continuing in the courtroom Tuesday.
Hold on, I have some more questions. You're going to get a full opportunity to speak. I just have a few more questions, okay? 2
of the 11 men arrested are from Rhode Island. The first arraigned, Quinn Cumberlander of Pawtucket, the 40-year-old describing his group as a well-regulated militia.
We don't break the law, we're not against the law. We uphold the law.
Police say 29-year-old Jahmal Latimer of Providence is the group's leader. The 29-year-old saying he does not agree with the several gun charges brought against him.
I understand that you are charged with a number of crimes. Is that true?
That is not true.
Other members of the Rise of the Moors and family were present in court today. One member, only wishing to be identified as Rashad, says he is there to support his fellow comrades, also telling us more about the group's mission.
We're a civic organization. We teach about nationality, we teach about law, and we teach about history.
And Cumberlander and Latimer were both held without bail and are both due back in court on Friday for a dangerousness hearing. For now, live in Medford, I'm Brittany Schaefer, 12 News.
Arraignments have been going on all day for the 11 members of a Rhode Island-based group involved in a long standoff that shut down Route 95. Members of the self-identified militia claim they do not recognize state or federal laws, a point several of them brought up in court today. 12 News reporter Brittany Schaefer joins us now from Medford, Massachusetts, with an update.
Massachusetts state troopers surround both the inside and outside of the courthouse here today.
Yeah, I think it started to play itself. But yeah, so a lot of interesting stuff to unpack there. And a couple things that I want people to pay attention to and put on their back burner for this conversation is, one, that they believe that the U.S. laws do not apply to them. And at the same point in time, they were also claiming to be a well-regulated militia. Like, you're going to see something consistent to where these people claim to not be under the jurisdiction of U.S. law, but at the same point in time claim to have constitutional rights. So I just want to point that one out real quick and have y'all think about that and have them on the back burner as we go forward through this. But real quick here, I'm going to share a video and play a video by a good brother named Rami Salam El. I have this video linked down below. And this is a short video where he kind of goes into the belief systems of Jahmal Latimer in particular, and kind of breaks down some things that Jahmal has said. I apologize if the sound quality is not the greatest, family, but I'm working with what I have, and I find this to be very, very good material to familiarize people with in terms of understanding the difference between the sovereign citizen Moors / Moorish nationals and the Moorish American Moslems of the M.S.T.A. So I'm going to enlarge this and play this. And I'm probably going to do it like this too, and enlarge it on the screen for y'all. Make sure I got this turned up proper loud.
So this video is about the FBI and investigation of the Rise of the Moors organization. And just in case you didn't see the first video, we got 3 guns. You think these people want people to start waking up and realizing, oh shit, when I took an oath to support the defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that means anyone part of the democratic anything promoting a two-party system is a domestic enemy. Any organization, FBI, CIA, state police, local police, municipal police, county police, fighting against American citizens is a terrorist organization, a domestic enemy, which every single sworn person in the military took an oath to fight against. Which that sign says, if you try to come into my house without a warrant, you will be shot. Like I said earlier, if the FBI tries to do an illegal search
or neutralize you,
or neutralize me while I'm at home, we got slugs. Hold on, wait. We got 5.56 Hold on, wait. We got 40s. I got regular 40, hollow point, regular 40, hollow point, regular 40, hollow point. So however they want it, they can get it, right? You know how many Marines have been contacting me saying, I still stand by that oath? You know how many Marines have been contacting me telling me that? Of various nationalities, Europeans too. You know how many fucking Marines have been telling me that? Do you really think that the United States has this shit on lock? Or are they trying to look this up. I'm not even gonna say it, just look it up. I'm not even gonna explain it to you. Look it up. Look up rapid dominance via shock and awe. Look it up. So put a T for Target. That's the Target house, right?
T from Target.
We already know that this house is behind it. We already know that there's two intersections on the left and right side. And of course, if we have a map, we already know which one's north, which way's north. So we already know that towards the east and west of this house, you know, there's two main streets. So we already know that we're gonna have one fire team, right? Or people go in the house, right? That's the door. Then we already know we're gonna have to have a barricade here and a barricade here to stop oncoming traffic. So we're gonna have another fire team here, another fire team here, and then we already know that we have to have an immediate protection area around the house. So if we can, you know, we're gonna surround the building too. And then we're gonna have another barricade right here with another squad outside to make sure nobody's running out the front. We already got people in the back and the sides. We already know our team's going is in the front. So the only people that should be coming out is our team. And that's how you strategize. And beyond this is the unknown, which you ain't gonna know until you get there. So you ain't gonna, unless you go to City Hall and get the layout of the house, you ain't gonna know. Layout of the house. But other than that is what are you doing? You're showing your dominance of the battlefield. You're showing that you dominate this entire intersection, that intersection, the whole fucking house itself. So now if the people on the inside call for backup, you're good. If they try to take the main road, they can't. If they try to come from behind the other houses, they can't. If they try to come to the front door, they can't. And then this could be mission one. While this is going on in this part of the city, if we had enough fucking people, we could be doing something else on the other side of the city. Which no one's going to be ready for because this is where the majority of the people are. So no one's paying attention to what's going on over there. But that's enough of that. I don't want you to know too much about how I fucking think. Because you ain't even ready to fucking bear arms to protect yourself. So that means you ain't ready for no fucking mission and operation. You ain't even ready for none of that shit. So there's no point in talking about it. just know it's in here. So if you're actually about any type of actual action or remedy, just know it could happen. It could happen very well planned out. It could happen very fucking strategically. And it could be fucking absolute mission success if we weren't such pussies. Part of why I told Moors to sue in federal court is so that we have proof of their unwillingness to help us bring justice when we're trying to do it the civil way. Yeah. So that way we can have two options. One, go to the UN or some other body or get allies from another nation to help us bring justice. Mm-hmm. Or when we start invoking justice according to how they've been mistreating us, mm-hmm. no one can say anything because we tried to do it with our First Amendment right, civilly. So they forced our hand to use our Second Amendment right. The Second Amendment means no more than that it shall not be infringed by Congress and has no other effect than to restrict the powers of the government. So it doesn't grant you the right to have this. All it does is says that the federal government can't say you can't have this.
That's why they want to be the makers and designers of everything in our world, so they can lay hold to its
what to come, control, to expect. It's to keep us disarmed, so that way we can never rebel against their oppression.
Exactly.
That's all it's for. That's literally it. Hey, we ain't gotta go deep into the psychology now. That's what it is.
That's it.
So our Lord Jesus Christ, our Savior, our Lord Jesus Christ, our Savior, teaches you to fight. There's a time for war and a time for peace. There's a time to kill and a time to heal. So why do you think when our people get murdered, that is a peaceful time? This is Quran chapter 9, verse 13. Will ye not fight people who violated their oaths, plotted to expel the messenger, and took the aggressive by being the first to assault you? Do ye fear them? Nay, it is Allah whom ye should justly fear, if ye believe. What does that sound like to you? Noble Drawley already told you. He said in the year 2000, the Moors are going to come through to their own seeing and knowing and put you old Moors in the back. A lot of these old Moors are not about action.
Which is why, for example, honors to, people like Jahmal with Rise of the Moors. He started his own organization and bringing people in and teaching them about their birthrights and their nationality, same stuff that temples have been supposed to be doing for 100 years.
There's been people that have called me the prophet out here. And, I'm like, nah, that's not me. I'm Felicia's son. I'm Jahmal. But, they call me that, and I was, okay, I'll accept that. That's fine. But, they call me that, and I was, okay, I'll accept that. That's fine. I'm not part of the Moorish Temple of America. I don't advocate for the Moorish Temple of America.
Say that again. Say that again.
I'm not part of the Moorish Temple of America. I'm not part of the Moorish Temple of America. I don't advocate for the Moorish Temple of America.
Say that again. Say that again.
I'm not part of the Moorish Temple of America. I went to... Sometimes I put this on my life. Sometimes I'm like, yo, I'm ashamed to be a Moor. I'm ashamed because there's nothing. I don't see anything honorable. I don't see anything besides the prophet. Other than that, I don't see shit. Nothing. I see niggas playing church. Niggas singing hymns about the prophet. I see niggas doing that. I don't see Moors. I see niggas with a fez on. That's what I see. I see niggas playing at City Hall. Let's raise the flag and talk about our independence. Meanwhile, you're still paying You're still paying taxes to these people that are murdering you on the street. You say nothing when they do it. You're still paying a mortgage to a motherfucker who ain't even from here. You're still abiding by laws that are written by niggas who ain't even fucking from here. If that's not enough for you to say fuck these niggas with feathers on, then you deserve to be a slave, period. You deserve it.
Could you give me your name, please? Jahmal, tell you a little bit. Sorry, what's the last name? Abdullah. Me. I can show you my papers if you want. No.
Just, all three are here.
Is the last name B-A-Y? B-E-Y.
I'm fine.
You go by a different name, sir? No.
Leslie Malabi, I think, Judge? No.
Do you go, or have you ever gone by Leslie Malabi?
No, last time I was here in front of, Lee's name Suleiman, issue of my identity was, brought up. He asked me to draw my nationality card with court.
Have you ever gone by Jahmal Latimer?
Nope.
All right, sir, you don't have a case in front of you, you're all set.
All right, thank you.
It will be a issue for Jahmal Latimer. Have you ever gone by Jahmal Latimer?
Nope.
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 Yeah, shout out to Brother Rami Salam in the chat. Matter of fact, bro, if you want to jump on, shout out to my brother Bernie Bay in the chat. If you want to jump on, feel free to go ahead and do that, brother, man. There is the link. But right now, what I'm going to, and shout out to that brother Rami Salam. Go to his channel. Please subscribe if you're interested and want to keep up on this topic and you want to know what the difference is between what a Moorish national or Moorish sovereign citizen is and what a Moorish American Muslim is. Rami Salam has weekly videos where he breaks down the lessons from the Moorish Circle 7 Quran and the questionnaire, etc., and what Moorish American Muslims believe and whatnot. And he can definitely help you differentiate the difference between them and a Moorish national / Moorish sovereign citizen. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get into a video by some lawyers who deal with the sovereign citizen ideology and also cover the Moorish national / Moorish sovereign citizen movement as well. These lawyers have debated Moorish nationals and Moorish sovereign citizens on their ideology. So what they did here is they gave an opinion. They broke down the legal breakdown of what was going on during the arraignment of people like Jahmal, etc., when they were arraigned after their standoff. So I have that video linked down below as well. So definitely go check out her channel. The sister channel's name is Natalie Lawyer Chick, and then there is another channel for Joe the Lawyer. The other brother in the video, and his channel is called Common Sense Academy or Joe the Lawyer. If you're interested in the sovereign citizen stuff, go check out the Common Sense Academy video or channel. I don't have that one linked down below, but you'll have to look that one up. I do have the sister channel link below, and I have this video from her link down below. But without further ado, let me go ahead and make this thing big. And I want to give some give some appreciation to these lawyers because they went out of their way during this video to distinguish the difference between the Moors who were part of the religious organization, the Moorish Temple of America, and then these people with the extremist ideology / the Moorish national / Moorish sovereign citizens. I greatly appreciate that they went out of their way to make that distinction because they did not have to. But let me get into this and make sure my volume is okay.
Thank you for being here, Joe.
I'm honored to be the first, Natalie. I don't mind. I fudge around with this stuff too.
This is awesome. Okay, so here we go. Oh, and let me unmute it. How about that?
I'm going to ask you if you wouldn't mind listening to the clerk for that purpose. Mr. Burns, if you would.
He said, I will tell the truth to the best of my abilities. Most Moors would not even answer that question, or sovereign citizens.
No.
What are your thoughts on that, Joe? No?
No, most of them would not, because they're usually the first thing out of their mouth, like you said, is you don't have jurisdiction over me. What's your oath, Your Honor? Did you take an oath? And they try to flip the script on the judge. So that's an unusual response. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Very unusual. And I have a theory as to that. I think it has something to do with Marvel Girl is in here, and thank you, Marvel Girl. But I think she told me that he didn't make it out of basic or something, but he says he was in the Marines for 4 years. So I don't know for sure like what the answer is, but I'm going to find out. But I think some of it has to do with actually having served in the military. I think when faced with a real authority figure, he can't really turn up like that, like he really wants to, or like his colleagues do, because some of them were really acting up during their arraignment. He is particularly sedated in comparison to the people that he's supposed to be leading.
And you prefer to be known as Jahmal Bey, is that correct? All right. And you have previously been known as Jahmal Latimer, is that true? All right. How old are you, sir? And how far have you gone in school?
He wouldn't allow me to call him sir. He didn't like that, but he hasn't corrected the judge. See, he has some sense about him, I'm telling you.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a little different, right, than how the other ones behave in court.
I have another theory on him too. It'll take me a little longer. We can finish this, or you want me to get it out now?
Tell me what your theory is, please.
So I think Jahmal has constructed something a little bit different than the standard sovereign citizen ideology. And in his recent videos, you know, he really stresses, number one, the treaty between the United States and Morocco. Mm-hmm. And then he also stresses, like, an interesting thing here with the firearms was the Second Amendment. So I agree with you. I think part of him is, I was in the military. I think part of him is he has some sense about him and he respects authority inherently. Number two, I think, I didn't interview him, but I think Jahmal is very intelligent. Mm-hmm. And so he's also trying to, like, just not completely come off as a sovereign citizen. Mm-hmm. But number three, his ideology seems to be to always, like, go back to the treaty and then to interpret the Constitution of the United States differently. And that's a little bit different than, I think, a lot of sovereign citizens who just attack, right? Mm-hmm. You don't have authority, you don't have jurisdiction, you know, you're a corporation. All these, Jahmal's much more nuanced in what he does. And I don't know if that's for persuasive effect, but I did notice during this recent, standoff, he was like, we're part of a different country. Like, and I know the Moors have the Moorish sovereign citizens have different ideas than even, like, a lot of other sovereign citizen groups. Mm-hmm. He stays away from a lot of the stuff that is generally seen and is easily, like, knocked down as nonsensical. I'm not sure why, but I think that his theory, his worldview is a little different.
Yeah, I think the why, or I think the effect of that, less than the why, but the effect is that he's actually more dangerous than the other ones.
I agree.
He's smarter.
Yeah.
He is better at manipulating the facts, and he's better at manipulating the law, because there is a scintilla of truth to some of the things he says.
Yes.
So, for example, he will cite a case in the correct context, and then you'll go and pull the case and realize it's been overturned, or it doesn't apply in this state, or he has misstated the holding. But it's like in the correct vein of cases. Like, this is a case that deals with the thing, at least, that he's talking about. You know, he may go to the Treaty of Truth and Friendship and say that we're their own separate country, but ultimately what he's asking for the courts to do is to enforce the Second Amendment onto him as they enforce it onto people in other states, not recognizing the fact that the states each have their own way in which they can restrict and enforce the Second Amendment, right?
Exactly.
He wants it to apply across the board, and there are a lot of people that are not Moorish American sovereign citizens that think the same exact way. They think that all Second Amendment laws should be the same across the board, and that you should have reciprocity. That's basically what he's arguing for, is reciprocity, right? Forget the whole we're a separate nation thing. We already know that that's false. But a lot of people argue for reciprocity who are not Moorish American sovereign citizens. Fortunately, he presents it as though that's already the law. That is not already the law, you know?
Yes.
So that's, to me, more nuanced, more, and he's more dangerous.
It's like a higher level, Natalie. He's like on a higher level. And I'd be interested to see, I don't know, this has got national attention. If they get any support from like the 2A, from like the Second Amendment community, I don't know. Okay. But he's very articulate. It's more manipulative, and it's harder. Like, he's disguised a lot of it. I mean, he comes off very well, and I agree with you. That makes him more dangerous.
Yeah. Now, but you're going to see here, that's why I wanted to get into your thoughts on this. I think the segue is, you're going to see here that all the judge needs to do is to scratch the surface to see how this does not work in a court of law, how it doesn't work in practical application, even though it sounds really good to someone who may not fully understand it. Okay, so I'm going to start it back up.
Any kind of mental illness or mental condition that might affect your ability to think clearly. Are you thinking clearly today? And so you've not had any drugs or medicines or alcohol that might affect that ability. All right. So you understand that you are charged with a number of crimes. Is that true? Well, you understand that you are in fact charged with these crimes.
They'll never say that they understand. So that's out of the Moorish American extremist playbook, okay?
All right, I'm going to make sure you do understand. The first charge against you is that you possessed a large capacity firearm. The second is that you carried a firearm without a license. The third is that you improperly stored a firearm. The fourth is that you used body armor in the commission of a felony. The fifth is that you committed conspiracy. The sixth is that you furnished false identifying information to law enforcement upon arrest. And the seventh is that you possessed ammunition without an ID card. So do you understand what I've just read to you? All right. Let me ask it another way, if you don't mind, Mr. Bay. I've read what the charges are on the complaint here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And so I understand that you may feel that you have a defense to those charges, and you may very well. In fact, you are presumed innocent of these charges.
What are your thoughts on the judge and how she's handling, he's not the first one who's come in, and the other ones were much more disruptive than him. But what are your thoughts on how the judge is?
I think she's doing a pretty good job. And the interesting thing too, and I think it's a good thing that she does this, is you know, she's calling him Mr. Bay, you know, by the name that he's chosen, because if they don't do that, it can just knock the whole thing off the rails. And they'll start on that, and so she's kind of, you know, she's explaining everything very well. She's highlighting, you know, the rights that he does have, and she's by the name. So I think she's doing a good job.
I do too, and I feel as though she's not allowing for herself to be distracted by, you know, enforcing like, no, we're going to say it this way. We're going to do it that way. You're going to, you know, say things the way that I anticipate a criminal defendant to do it. She's accepting what he said. It's almost like she's like parrying, you know, like she accepts what he says and then she like moves on to the next thing or reframes it. The only thing I wish that she knew that, you know, just come up with a different word than understand. And I bet you he would have answered the question. They just can never say that they understand, that they stand under anything.
Right. That's a good point. Yeah. Use a different word.
Yeah. Just use a different word sometimes. But again, she probably doesn't know that. And you shouldn't really expect anybody to. I'm seeing 2 $49.99 super stickers from Hamad Malik. And I just want to thank you so very much because I love the super sticker. First of all, it's really cute and I appreciate it. I see some more super chats in here, which I've noted down, and I will get to them once we're finished looking at this.
So having said that you are presumed innocent and a not guilty plea is entered on your behalf, you understand that you are in fact charged by this complaint with those offenses. I'm not asking you to admit to the legitimacy of those offenses, simply whether or not you understand that those are the charges that have been brought in this court against you.
I don't understand how these charges can be brought against me.
All right. But you've heard the charges as I read them to you. Yes. All right. And so I want you to understand that at least count 1 carries a very serious penalty, and that is a potential of 10 years in state prison. I don't know if you were aware of that. Now that I've said that, you understand that this is a very serious set of charges. Well, do you understand?
He tried to cite just now Young versus the state of Hawaii.
And that what I told you is the maximum penalty for at least one of these charges is 10 years in state prison. All right, but do you understand that that is in fact a potential penalty? All right.
I understand Young versus state of Hawaii. So I'm gonna pull that case real quick while I'll let you guys finish listening. Anything else you wanna add to this or any thoughts on this?
I just thought, like you said, with understand, like the judges, and we wouldn't expect anybody, but maybe they need a playbook, is they can just read the charges or the colloquy as they normally do and just say, did you hear what I said? And give acknowledgement that they heard it, because they're never, because he's answered when she said that, she said understand, and he said no, or he cited the case, and then she said, did you hear that these are the charges against you? Okay, how he can't really say no to that.
Right.
Just a thought.
You know, I reacted to a video in which law enforcement were training for how to deal with sovereign citizens. And I don't know if courts find it worth it to train for it, because honestly, you don't see them every day. You don't see them all that frequently. But it might, you know, during a judicial conference, maybe one seminar on this is how we are going to be talking to sovereign citizens from now on.
Natalie gave me a great idea. We should do a CLE.
Ooh, yes.
Like for lawyers and or judges.
I love that. I love that. So real quick, guys. Oh my God, okay, so for those of you that don't know, a CLE means continuing legal education. If any of my mods are in the chat, please screenshot the super chats. I've been trying to note them down, but I don't want to get distracted and not engage with you guys. So please screenshot the super chats and email them to me, natalielawyerchick@gmail.com. Miss Mandy did that for me last time, and it was so helpful. Thank you so much. So I could stay on top of the flow of things. So what he is referring to, Young versus Hawaii, is a Supreme Court case, right? And here's like the blurb on it. So in 2011, Hawaii resident George Young twice applied to his county police department for a license to carry a loaded firearm in public. Young contended that his application met the requirements of Hawaii Section 134-9, a statutory framework for issuing public carry licenses. It authorized local law enforcement to grant concealed carry licenses in exceptional cases where applicants demonstrated a reason to fear injury, and open carry licenses to residents engaged in the protection of life and property with a specific need for carrying a handgun in public. So here in Maryland, we have a similar law where if you are the victim of an assault or have a protective order against somebody, you can apply for a concealed carry permit on that basis, right? And so that, like, it's not open to everyone, but it's open to people that are particularly in danger, that you can carry a gun and not just have it inside of your home, or not just transport it from the home to the gun range or something. Does that make sense? So this is very similar to what they have in Maryland. So the Hawaii County Police Chief concluded that Young was ineligible for a license under either standard and rejected both of his applications. So he filed a claim against the county, right? And I'm just trying to get to the opinion. I don't care about the dissenting opinion, y'all. Come on. Oh, wait. Was this only a second? Oh, Lord. See, hold on. It has not been decided by the Supreme Court yet. It's a Ninth Circuit, right? And the Ninth Circuit held, why is he citing this case?
It's a very recent case.
This is after 2021, so it's making its way up to the Supreme Court. It's in the Ninth Circuit. So guys, the way that it goes is I was like, why am I not familiar with this case? That's what I said. You always have to look up what he's talking about. Yeah. So you have the trial court level, and that's where he raised the issue with them not issuing him the license or the permit. And then he appealed within the state level, and then it got out of the state into the federal circuit. The Ninth Circuit is right before it hits the Supreme Court, right? And so the circuit concerns multiple states, right, in this federal group where there's like a federal courts over those multiple states. And then if the federal appellate court makes a decision, and then you can appeal up to the Supreme Court if the Supreme Court decides to take your case. Is that fair? I think that's I'm trying to keep it as, simple as possible.
Great explanation.
Okay, so the Ninth Circuit held, so this has not gone to the Supreme Court, held that the Second Amendment does not extend to open public firearm carriage, meaning carrying a gun open and in public. Some states give you the right to do that, but they're saying that that's not really what's called for in the Second Amendment, right? And that also is in keeping with that same circuit's decision in another case called Peruta v. San Diego. Concealed carry is outside of the Second Amendment, right? So according to the Ninth Circuit, carrying arms in public for defense is not within the scope of the right protected by the Second Amendment. And Hawaii has a restrictive policy where they're basically saying you can't carry a gun out in public unless you meet certain, exceptions. Maryland is the same. And they're saying that Hawaii is not in violation of the Second Amendment because of that, because there is no Second Amendment guarantee to be able to carry a gun out in public, okay? So he's citing this case in court and also cites the case during the standoff, and he cites the case in his jail call with, I don't think she's his girlfriend, I don't know, but she's definitely in his group, right? And he's saying that he's delegating her the authority to at least speak on his behalf, but that he's still in control, And he's telling her, tell the Moors to look up Young v. Hawaii, but Young v. Hawaii does not support his position. And also, Young v. Hawaii, this didn't concern him getting a permit. He was without a permit, carrying in a different state than where he lives. So, what do you think, Joe?
I think it's clever because it's a new case, and so it gives him a lot of different arguments, as he can say, well, maybe the Supreme Court hasn't decided it yet, but my reading of it, right? It's not like an old case that has like a lot of authority behind it. I agree with your reading of it. It clearly does not give him the right in Massachusetts to carry the firearms as he did. Pennsylvania is an open carry state, and concealed carry is available to everyone. There is like a background, like a criminal background check, but anyone can apply for and get it. It's not as narrow as, say, Maryland or some other states. And as you stated, Natalie, it's, you know, the Constitution is going to set sort of the bottom line, right, when it comes to your rights. And some states can give you more expansive rights. What they can't do is restrict it more than what the Constitution says. And the Constitution, the right to bear arms, you know, I think there was a recent opinion from Scalia that Scalia wrote several years ago that you can have it in your house, but there has been restrictions. There have been restrictions on the Second Amendment forever. And another example is like the school zone laws, which I don't know if those were litigated and maybe knocked down. I actually, maybe that's a bad example because I can't remember what happened.
No, because they're definitely still in effect in New York.
Okay.
Still in effect, yeah. And I believe there's some school zone laws still in Maryland about guns and drugs. So yeah.
That's a perfect example. They can restrict certain locations where you can't carry a firearm at all, I believe, even if you had a permit. Though I don't know, each law can be nuanced.
Sure.
But yeah, individual states can put reasonable restrictions on the right to bear arms. And this Hawaii case, even as you pointed out, Natalie, even if the Supreme Court ends up siding with this guy, he was applying for a permit. It's not going to work for Jahmal. It's just a different scenario. But what you said, and I never thought about before, as long as I've been covering them, is they're arguing for reciprocity. They're saying, oh, well, these other states do it, so why can't we? Well, they don't have to. They can constitutionally restrict. And a lot of what he points out goes to this reciprocity argument, which I honestly never noticed before. That's not a valid constitutional argument.
It's not, unfortunately. You know, we talked about it with MJ. We talked about it with gay marriage, with a whole bunch of different things, right?
Yeah.
There was a long time where there was no reciprocity on these things.
Yes.
The termination of a pregnancy, okay? There is really no reciprocity on that right. It's recognized in Roe v. Wade, but the restrictions are very onerous in some states and almost not restricted at all in other states. And the Supreme Court has found time and time again that is okay because states can do that. States can make restrictions on rights as long as they don't make that right, you know, unavailable, basically, you know. And then the Supreme Court can kind of whittle out how far they can go in making that restriction or how far they can go in expanding that right. So it's just like, it's not going to get him anywhere if we just extend it to all the different types of issues in this country that are covered by constitutional rights. Okay, so I think I should come back to the chat just briefly because, before I do that, I did want to, this is how, you know, I don't think you guys need to see the whole thing, but this is basically how he talks to the court. I did want you to see this one little interaction right here. Hold on.
All the paperwork, but the paperwork that I can tell you officially charges you has all those charges. So my question is, generally speaking about lawyers, do you understand what their function is as I've just described it to you?
Don't understand what a lawyer does, okay? Says he doesn't understand.
putting aside this gentleman for the moment, my question is about lawyers in the Commonwealth. You understand that they are professionally trained in both the procedural aspects of the criminal process as well as the substantive law. All right. In which case, Mr. Bay, I cannot accept your waiver of your right to have a lawyer assist you. And so, indeed, so you're not. So you will have a lawyer because you're not waiving that right. But I am telling you that right now, I do not find that you are waiving your right to have a lawyer assist you freely, willingly, and knowingly and voluntarily. So I'm not going to accept your waiver. You'll be represented. You will have. You will have.
So that's an objection.
So this gentleman attempted to. Wow, there's a.
Yeah. So shout out to those lawyers for giving a breakdown as to what was going on during the arraignment. And I think it would only be right to describe what they do is, so they speak on sovereign citizens as well as the Moorish sovereign citizen movement. And so what they were describing is the fact that there's multiple different strains of thought within the sovereign citizen movement, and that the Moorish sovereign citizen strain of thought is its own strain of thought within the sovereign citizen movement itself. And so what is a sovereign citizen and what is a Moorish sovereign citizen? A sovereign citizen is one who believes that the individual has total sovereignty, and that the laws of the state, etc., do not apply to them. That the only laws that apply to them are the Constitution, etc. They long story short, they believe that that they legally have the ability to live in a state of anarchy, where they can do whatever they want as long as they do not harm someone else's persons or property. And that if they do not have contracts with the state and local authorities, that they are not obligated to follow any rules of theirs. So, for instance, they don't believe that they need to have any driver's licenses. They believe that they have the right to travel freely. And in fact, like I said, like I used to live with somebody who used to be of that ideology, and yeah, they used to go around and doing stuff in traffic court and all kind of crazy stuff. And I mean, on some hilarious stuff too. I mean, my dude came up to me one day. He was like, "Yeah, he's like, my retirement plan is to go ride a horse on the highway during peak traffic hours." And he was planning on getting arrested and just living in jail as his retirement plan. I was like, that's crazy. But yeah, no, they legit believe that they didn't need a driver's license or anything like that. And Moorish sovereign citizens are very similar. They believe the very same things, but they believe more, right? So they believe that they're not under the jurisdiction of America, but they believe that they're underneath the jurisdiction of a Moorish or Moroccan empire, that they believe also has jurisdiction in the same land. Okay, so they believe that they live in a land to where the U.S. government is invading on their land, and this is separate from regular sovereign citizens now. Okay, this is just like the Moorish nationals and the Moorish sovereign citizens. They believe that that the U.S. government is infringing upon their rights on their own land, and that they live in this Moroccan empire, like I said, that's in the same exact land. So kind of like a Native American kind of a situation, right? They believe like they have like their own kind of tribal sovereignty, but even then some. They believe that their sovereignty supersedes that of the U.S. government, period. And so they try to cite a U.S. treaty with Morocco to do such, and falsely do so. And you know what? I'll show that here in a second. But I just want to quickly get through this. And yet at the same point in time, they try to cite that the U.S. Constitution applies to them. So that's where they kind of blend it with the sovereign citizens and whatnot. If you want to see or listen to a really good video on the origin of the Moorish sovereign citizen movement, you definitely need to go check out this video here. That's on well, I don't know what he calls him. He used to be called Lord Abba. I know he rocks with Naeem. I don't know what he calls his last name is at this juncture, right? But he did an interview with Sharif N.I.L.Bey a long time ago. Sharif N.I.L.Bey is a member of the Moorish Science Temple of America, and he used to be real thick and heavy in the Moorish sovereign citizen movement. In fact, he'll describe himself as somebody who created a lot of the standard operating procedures within the Moorish sovereign citizen movement. And so this video here, interview with Sharif Bey, the origins of Moorish sovereign citizens, is a fantastic video if you want to understand the origins of how it happened. Again, he is a member of the Moorish Science Temple of America, and he's also a former Moorish sovereign citizen. So he has a lot of fantastic things to say. I'm probably going to run through this interview and pick out some really good parts of it for people to understand and listen to. But there's that. Let's see if I got any questions. So I've seen some people in the chat start talking about like, no, there's multiple constitutions and there's a treaty that the nation that the U.S. has to follow, etc., and has to recognize. I'm going to clear all this up right now, okay? In a real brief manner. I'm not going to go super detailed into this. I'm going to do more, probably more videos, but I'm just going to give a brief overview so people can understand what's going on here. Just a brief thing here. Moorish sovereign citizens versus Moorish American Muslims. People need to understand the difference in ideology and how this thing was set up, etc., etc., etc. So this is the Moorish Science Temple of America. This is an organization started in 1913, etc. This is Noble Drew Ali, the head of that movement. This is a religious organization. And so this is kind of what they deal with. Again, Moorish American Muslims in the Moorish Science Temple of America. There's a difference between Moorish American Muslims and Moorish nationals / Moorish sovereign citizens. There is a huge and profound difference. And so here I'm talking about Moorish American Muslims, the people that belong to the religious organization. The Moorish Science Temple of America was founded in Newark, New Jersey in 1913 by Noble Drew Ali. In 1925, the Moorish Science Temple of America was organized into a civic organization. Yep. Yeah, I need to fix that. I got 25 in there twice. In the state of Illinois. In 1928, the Moorish Science Temple of America reorganized as a religious organization, also in the state of Illinois. The goal of the organization is to uplift fallen humanity and teach its members how to be better citizens and to live by their creed of Islam as protected under the U.S. Constitution. The Moorish Science Temple of America has bylaws that state members are to follow the laws and constitution of the government and not to cause confusion. Moorish American Muslims are not anti-government or separatists in any way, shape, or form. So again, they've been around for over a century. And unlike the Moorish sovereign citizens, they do not try to seek a separate jurisdiction, and they do not try to separate themselves from the government. They work within the government. They file paperwork within the government. They are organized within this government. Again, they first were organized as a civic organization and then became a religious organization, a religious corporation at that. They are a religious corporation. One thing that you're going to hear about from sovereign citizens and from Moorish sovereign citizens is that corporations are fake people, etc., right? And that they don't deal with the U.S. because the U.S. is a corporation, etc., and all the states and the counties and the cities are all corporations, Well, the Moorish Temple of America is a religious corporation. And so you can also hear that Jahmal himself said that he is not part of the Moorish Temple of Gate for such. So with his own mouth in the video that I showed from Rami Salamel, you can hear Jahmal stipulate that he is not part of the Moorish Temple of America, the religious organization, nor does he advocate for it. They advocate for something completely different. This is what they advocate for. Moorish nationals and Moorish sovereign citizens, right? They organized and separated from the Moorish Temple of America in the late 80s and early 90s. So this is way, way, way after the organization of the temple. Way after the organization of the temple. They began to blend the teachings of C.M.B.A. of the Clock of Destiny and sovereign citizen ideology. As a matter of fact, there was somebody in the chat earlier that was talking about there's two constitutions, etc. And they were talking about C.M.B.A. and whatnot, and to look up the Zodiac Constitution. So C.M.B.A. again had a separate organization called the Clock of Destiny, etc. that was separate from the Moorish Temple of America, and they have their own constitution. So as I stipulated, the Moorish Temple of America has their own bylaws. It's called the Divine Constitution and Bylaws, and in those Divine Constitution and Bylaws, they say that they have to follow the laws of the government, etc. And I'll show that here in a second. But in CMBA's organization, they have their own constitution called the Zodiac Constitution. Completely different concept. And so in the late 80s, early 90s, there were Moors who began to blend the teachings of CMBA and the sovereign citizen ideology. And you can again go back to that video I was showing you about Sharif Anayobey talking with Lord Abbott, etc. on this whole topic when he breaks the whole thing down. And so with the blend of these ideologies, they seek to escape U.S. jurisdiction and live under an imaginary jurisdiction of an empire that also exists here, like I was saying earlier. And they do so by trying to cite a treaty with Morocco they think makes them exempt from U.S. law, yet also think they have constitutional rights. So you consistently heard Jahmal talk about like, we're going to use our First Amendment rights, and if that doesn't work, we'll use our Second Amendment rights, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And talking about like, forming a well-regulated militia, et cetera. And this is for them. I want these Moors that are talking about the Zodiac Constitution and seeing based to listen to what I'm saying here. So again, I didn't say any of that. Jahmal said that. So Jahmal citing a constitution that he swore an oath to, et cetera, whatnot. And so that constitution is not the Zodiac Constitution. He's talking about the U.S. Constitution, like regular sovereign citizens are. In fact, he's talking about the U.S. Constitution like Noble Drew Ali does in his literature, in a very positive way, which I'll show. But he's saying that he has the rights of that Constitution. So on the one hand, this is where the ideology doesn't pan out scholastically, right? So on the one hand, they say that they are not subject to the laws of this land. And on the other hand, stipulate that they are subject to the laws of the Constitution. That doesn't make any sense in the world. Like, so they're not subject to the laws of this government, but they're subject to the laws of this government's constitution. So they're saying that they have the Second Amendment right to bear arms. They have the First Amendment right, et cetera, whatnot. But they are not citizens of this government, of the Constitution, which secures those said rights. It doesn't make any consistent sense, period. And this is where they also become dangerous. And this is where they can be more dangerous than a sovereign citizen, is because what they do is they blend religious teachings in what they do. Like, so you heard Jahmal talk about Noble Drew Ali, and you heard him talk about Jesus. All right. So here I say that they attempt to cite works of Noble Drew Ali, but are not affiliated with the Moorish Temple of America, or with law-abiding Moorish American Muslims, or the religion of Islam. But they attempt to cling to like a neo-spirituality, right? We're talking about like the New Age type stuff, right? The crystals and the chakras and all them types of things there. But they pretend like they follow the teachings of Noble Drew Ali, but they don't. and they pretend like they follow the religion of Islam, but they don't. In fact, they have they make Islam an acronym for something called I self law and master. So they'll tell you that they follow Tryal and that they follow Islam, but they don't follow Tryal nor the religion of Islam. They follow their own spirituality that has nothing to do with the teachings of Noble Tryal. Noble Tryal, again, he believed that the U.S. Constitution was a great thing in that it protected religious freedoms, and he taught that his members that they should live a life according to Islam under the religious freedoms of the Constitution. And so again, the sovereign citizen Moors have a whole nother ideology where they believe that I self law and master. They kind of have this whole thing where I'm not subject to these laws. Again, it's like a form of anarchy. And it's a whole different thing. So like, you can hear, if you don't pay attention to them right off top, they can sound like they're a Moorish American Muslim because they're saying Islam and Noble Tryal, and that's what kind of makes it dangerous. And the whole reason why I'm making this video is because I got a lot of good people. Like one of my best friends, you know what I'm saying? We came out the same temple together. Whenever he introduces himself to anybody, he'll tell you his name, and right after that, it's a Moorish American Muslim. So I don't want people looking at him crazy, looking at his family crazy, looking at his kids crazy, because people are out there doing stuff like this and getting people confused as to who's who. That confusion is against the laws of the temple, and that's why I'm saying that they attempt to cite works of Noble Tryal, but are not affiliated with the Moorish Science Temple of America or with law-abiding Moorish American Muslims or the religion of Islam. In fact, Moorish national / Moorish sovereigns are in effect sovereign citizen separatists. Sovereign citizen separatists. Like a regular sovereign citizen, their goal was to kind of like bankrupt the government. They kind of wanted to overthrow the government by bankrupting it and whatnot. They wanted to be what was called like a belligerent plaintiff or whatnot, to where like they were able to like make the government fold within its own court system and whatnot, and kind of go back to like go to like a wild west anarchy kind of a way. Moorish nationals and Moorish sovereigns, they don't want that. They want to be able to, yes, extract money from the government potentially if they can. If they can, and you might see people pushing paperwork packages to do such, just like sovereign citizens do. However, they want, like I said, they want to live they want to separate but stay here at the same point in time. Like, so they want to live in the same place but not be subject to the same laws, right? But yet be subject to a whole nother set of laws. But yet not be subject to those laws either. It's an interesting knife's edge they try to walk on that one. But they are in effect separatists, where the Moorish American Muslims are not separatists. So real quick, I'm going to stop sharing this, and I'm going to get into one. I'm going to get into the bylaws of the temple. Then I'm also going to get into this treaty that they cite. I know my man, Bernie Bay's been dying for me to get into these bylaws right quick. But I have these cited down below as well in the description for anybody who wants to check this out. So again, these are the divine constitution and bylaws of the temple. Hold on, let me go back to this. So real quick, we got Act 4. Okay. All members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are part and parcel of the government and must live the life accordingly. One more time. There's 7 laws here that are standard laws for every temple. And again, it says this, Act 4. All members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are a part and parcel of the government and must live the life accordingly. So in no way, shape, or form are Moorish American Muslims trying to be separate from the government or trying to seek a separate jurisdiction. They are part and parcel of the government, and they are said that they must obey the laws of the government. Obey the laws of the government. Then we go into Act 5. And this really seals the deal on the whole thing, right? Act 5 says this organization of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. One more time, this organization of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. But to obey hereby. So for the people in the chat that are saying, yeah, there's two constitutions, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. No, again, so Jahmal was talking about the First and Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, not some other constitution. Not some other constitution. And so Noble Ali's talking about the same concept. He's talking about the U.S. Constitution and obeying the laws of that Constitution and being a part and parcel of this government, not being separate from it and not being part of another jurisdiction. And again, being a religious corporation within that government, they are under the jurisdiction of that government. 100%. 100%. And on top of that, in the Circle 7 Quran, we also have this. In the Circle 7 Quran, we also have this. The Moorish Science Temple of America is a lawfully chartered and incorporated organization. Any subordinate temple that desires to receive a charter, the Prophet has them to issue to every state throughout the United States, etc. Again, not a separate jurisdiction. Underneath the jurisdiction of the United States, not separate. A lawfully chartered and incorporated organization. Again, like I said, they organized as a civic organization in 1925 in the state of Illinois. And in 1928, they reorganized as a religious corporation, in the state of Illinois. Underneath the jurisdiction of the state of Illinois and the federal government of the United States of America. Not a separate jurisdiction. Not a separate jurisdiction. So let's see what else would I like to show. I'll show this as well. Just to be clear, because there's something about like the Moorish. So sovereign citizens and Moorish sovereign citizens have this thing about driver's licenses, etc., whatnot, and not needing to have a driver's license, etc., because they have the right to travel. And a lot of Moors are getting their windows busted in because of it at this juncture. So this is something from the Moorish Guide literature, right, where the Prophet sends a marriage law to all temples. And I'm just going to read the first couple of paragraphs. It says, all marriage ceremonies of members of the Moorish Science Temple of America must be performed by an ordained minister and the head of the temple. And any man desiring to take unto himself a wife and receive our Moorish rites, he must go to the city hall and receive his license to be registered in that city, county, and state. It then must be turned over in the hands of the aforesaid ordained minister and head of a temple after it has been properly signed by city officials. So if you need to get a marriage license and you're signing a contract, basically is what the sovereign citizens and Moorish sovereign citizens would say with the city hall and the state and all that. If you need to get a marriage license, there's no way you wouldn't have to get a driver's license. Again, the Prophet is saying that you are under the jurisdiction thereof, that you participate in licensure, etc. Just to be clear. But going further, I'm going to clear up this whole bit about the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. Is there a treaty? Yes, 100%. Is there a treaty with Morocco? Yeah, it's, as a matter of fact, it's the oldest standing treaty in the world, the treaty between Morocco and the United States of America. Morocco was the first country to recognize the United States of America as a sovereign nation in, I believe, 1777 in December thereof. And in 1786, they embarked on a treaty with each other, a peace and friendship, and again also in 1836, etc. And so what the lawyers were saying is what the Moorish sovereign citizens do that's different than like a regular sovereign citizen is that they try to cite this treaty and try to get some jurisdiction underneath that treaty. And what they wrongfully do is pretend. So first and foremost, in order for this treaty to apply, they would have to be citizens of Morocco. Citizens of Morocco or subjects of the King of Morocco, etc., which they are not. So first and foremost, it does not apply in that direct format. Secondarily, let's say they were citizens of Morocco. What they would be seeking is to not have to deal with the actual court system, but deal with the consular courts or the consul system. So like there's a Moroccan consulate that's here. There's a just like if you go abroad, there's a U.S. consulate, and what that means is that there's a small pocket of land contracted with the American Morocco for it to be like a little miniature Morocco here, to where Moroccan citizens basically have like a safe haven that they can go to, etc. And if they're being ill treated, they can get dealt with legally that way, etc. And so they would be seeking to be dealt with via the Moroccan consulate. Again, they're not Moroccan citizens, so the Moroccan consulate would not deal with them in any way, shape, or form. In fact, what they tried to do is they tried to create their own consulate of Morocco that's for this fictitious jurisdiction that they're talking about. In fact, they were in contact with them, and the police actually talked to them. And it's crazy because like when you hear them talking, they were telling Jahmal stuff like, yeah, don't call them officers, because when you call them officers, that you're giving them jurisdiction and whatnot. Well, here's the thing: if you're going to start citing the treaty, understand what it actually says about jurisdiction. So let me share my screen one more time. I hope I'm not boring you to death, family, because this is a bit intricate with the info. So this is from avalonlaw.yale.edu. These are the Barbary treaties and whatnot. Again, getting into the Treaty of Peace and Friendship with Morocco, signed in 1786. There is a lot of treaty. There are a lot of aspects of this treaty and a lot of articles, right? But what I'm going to do is go straight down to Article 21. I want everyone to read this. If a citizen of the United States should kill or wound a Moor, or on the contrary, if a Moor shall kill or wound a citizen of the United States, the law of the country shall take place and equal justice shall be rendered. The consul assisting at the trial, and if any delinquent shall make his escape, the consul shall not be answerable for him in any manner whatever. So what you'll hear a Moorish sovereign citizen say, or a regular sovereign citizen say, is like consistently is there can be no crime if there has been no damaged party. Consistently hear them say this: there can be no crime if there's been no damaged party. And so, for instance, they'll say that like a city or a state or a government can't be a damaged party because they're not a real person; they're an artificial person; they're a corporation. But listen to the wording here. It says, if a citizen of the United States shall kill or wound a Moor, or on the contrary, if a Moor shall kill or wound a citizen. So we're talking about damaged parties now, right? So if there's a damaged party, the law of the country, either if they're in Morocco or if they're in the United States, the law of the country shall take place and equal justice shall be rendered, the consul assisting at the trial. So the treaty itself that they're citing stipulates that if they cause damage to anybody, etc., that there's a damaged party. If there is a damaged party, and they're incorrect about states not being able to be a party. They're 100% incorrect about that. But if there is a damaged party, that the law of the land takes precedence, that they are under the jurisdiction of the law of the land. So no, they do not have this free, even via the treaty that they're citing, they do not have this freedom of jurisdiction to where the laws of land do not apply. That is not the case. That is not the case. That is emphatically not the case. And so a lot of Moors gonna be like, oh, wait. Well, that's the treaty of 1786. You know what I'm saying? Go check out the one from 1836 because that's only a 50-year treaty, and when it ran out, they had to re-sign a new one. Okay, bet. So that was the treaty of 1786 we just looked at. We looked at the text of that treaty, right? So we're gonna go all the way down to 1836. All right? Treaty with Morocco, September 16, 1836. Text of the treaty. Article 21. I'm going to scroll all the way down, same way, so you can see my work. Article 21. If a citizen of the United States should kill or wound a Moor, or on the contrary, if a Moor shall kill or wound a citizen of the United States, the law of the country shall take place, and equal justice shall be rendered. The consul assisting at the trial. And if any delinquent shall make his escape, the consul shall not be answerable for him in any manner whatever. Oh, how about that? It's the same exact article. Same exact article. Both of them put both parties underneath the law of the land. So the treaty that they're citing literally grants jurisdiction if a Moor has caused injury to person or property of a citizen of the United States. The very treaty they're citing literally gives jurisdiction of the law of the land over anybody who's caused damage. So yeah, family. I've gone on for almost an hour and a half. I hope. Let me go check out these new comments because I missed a whole bunch. Let me scroll down. Okay. So I'm going to drop the link one more time for my brother Bernie Bay if you want to jump on to say anything. If not, family, I'm going to close this out. And what I'm going to do also is I'm going to maybe tomorrow do another show with maybe Rami Salam El if he has the time. But on Sunday, I'm going to get into the belief systems of the Moorish Temple of America just a little bit in the sense to where, being that this story is so big, it started to catch waves all over the country. And so for the first time, I've been able to see a Christian apologist like Vocab Malone actually respond on the topic and respond about the temple. And we were going back and forth. I was in his comment section when he did a video on it. He put up comments where I was differentiating between the Moorish sovereign citizens and the Moorish Temple of America. And there was a lot that he was talking about concerning the belief systems of both groups. And so I want to try to clarify a lot of what was said there and give a lot more context to what was said so people get a clear understanding of what both teach. Not to say that Vocab was unclear about it, but for people who don't know the difference between the two, it's real easy to get lost in terminology. You can just hear more and be like, okay, which one are you talking about? So I'm going to try to do my best, God willing, to be clear about the belief systems of both groups in terms of the spiritual side of it. But with that, family, I don't see my brother jumping on. He's probably busy playing daddy and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? I'm happy holiday to all the Moors out there. I pray y'all have a good one. And with that, family, I appreciate you for coming through and spending some time with me. I hope you were able to be edified in some way, shape, or form and learn something. If any questions you have, please put them down below. I will be more than happy to answer. And with that, family, I say peace and love.